This is Newsday from the BBC, and now to a film that I watched without most of the jokes, but which Chinese audiences are watching without most of the jokes and any of the homosexuality and cross-dressing.
I want to break free. I want to break free.
Well, there you are. That is a great song by Queen, one of the many things that China or Chinese censors have cut from the screened version of the life of singer Freddie Mercury. Bohemian Rhapsody. It was an Oscar winner. As I said, I saw it on a plane, long haul, with all the salty British swearing cut out, so none of the jokes worked. That's one way to edit a film. In China, however, they've edited the scene where the band dress up as women to record that video. They've also cut references to Mercury's homosexuality and his HIV, which, let's face it, are quite important aspects of his story. And still, intriguingly, the film is doing well. Kerry Allen of BBC Trending has been monitoring the reaction from China's cinema-goers. Kerry, this is a fascinating story. How aware are audiences of what they're not seeing as well as what they're seeing?
They're extremely aware. I mean, a lot of the comments I've been seeing on Sina Weibo, which is what Chinese people use instead of Facebook or Twitter, have been talking about the censorship and saying that they find the plot very confusing. I mean, at the same time, the film has received huge acclaim in China. There have been, I mean, I saw within the first 24 hours of the film hitting cinemas on Friday, tens of thousands of comments from users all over the country giving it 5 out of 5 stars and saying it was brilliant. But yes, a lot of comments from people saying that they found the plot rather confusing, and they're aware that Western films do get censored within the country, and they felt that there were elements missing that they weren't seeing, and so they were a bit confused about the plot. Yeah,
it's a little bit like, I suppose, a detective story without the kind of the murder or something, because obviously the elements that have been removed are some of the main motors of the plot. And, I mean, I could live without the jokes, but I just don't think that the film would make much sense. What is it? It's just a singer who sadly dies. That's it, is it?
Well, also, it's very frustrating for Chinese people as well, because the government is meant to be more tolerant of homosexuality and also showing greater awareness of AIDS in the country. There's been a lot of talk about this. I mean, the government media I've seen in the past 5 years have been increasingly opening up. They've been doing more stories on homosexuality because they see it as almost an answer to the growing gender gap in China, a kind of hangover from the one child policy. So that loads of men can get together, and so there's not going to be this gap between men and women. But at the same time, there are laws still in place that have been in place since 2017 saying that that explicit mentions of homosexuality or kisses even. I mean, China's quite kind of delicate about what it shows in terms of relationships just in its domestic soap operas. You won't get sex scenes in Chinese soap operas, for example. It is very cautious about what it airs, and especially if it's Western TV programs or films that come into the country, there is a lot of nervousness about this.
Well, you see, that's really interesting, because you kind of wonder, therefore, because they limit quite a lot the Hollywood films that get big distribution, why did they let it through in the first place? There's loads of films that they don't let through. This was guaranteed to have, you know, sort of parental advisory content in Chinese terms. So I'm really intrigued why they let it through at all.
Well, Queen were one of the few Western acts that, singers, bands that came into China back in the 90s. They were very big. I mean, people know the songs. Karaoke bars are very big in China, so you'll get lots of people going and singing Queen songs. So people were aware of Queen over a long period of time. And some people have been joking and saying that if you can't understand the plot of the film, you can at least kind of go along, have a sing-along in the cinemas. So yeah, they do like, this is part of the reason this film has come in, but yeah, it's just kind of accepted by people that a lot of the scenes will be cut, as much as you get on an aeroplane, so people just kind of shrug their shoulders about it, really.
Fascinating. Kerry, many thanks indeed. Kerry Allen of BBC Trending, watching part of Bohemian Rhapsody. Reminds me also of Brokeback Mountain. Remember Brokeback Mountain?
I do, yes.
That was very heavily edited. It was a story about a relationship between two men, cowboys, and it was cut for homosexual references in quite a lot of territories, and therefore made no sense.
And they had no songs in it, so it wasn't even a
you couldn't even sing along.